Hey, Focus fam. I bet you guys feel like your brain is just like having 20 tabs open all at the same time. Am I right?
You know, it's funny you should say that. That's actually something we're diving deep into today.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to be uncovering some seriously, unusual focus hacks.
Not the same old turn off your notification stuff
Right.
that everyone tells you to do.
Yeah, I think what's so fascinating about this deep dive is all the books that we're going to be pulling from Goleman's Focus, Elrod's Miracle Morning, Allen's Getting Things Done, and Clear's Atomic Habits. They all give such different perspectives on what attention is and how we can actually train it.
Like a muscle.
Yeah.
We've got a whole stack of amazing books here, and we're going beyond just like summarizing the main points to find 5 unusual focus hacks that you probably haven't heard before.
Right.
That'll make you be like, wait a minute, I can actually do that.
Totally. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Daniel Goleman in Focus, he talks about this idea of distributed attention.
Distributed attention.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of sci-fi.
I know it kind of does, but it's actually much more relatable than you think.
Okay.
Imagine Wikipedia, but it's like inside your brain.
Okay.
We can actually tap into this vast network of knowledge and expertise that's collectively available.
So through the internet and just like all the things.
Yeah, through the internet, through other people, through systems that we build.
Okay, so like if I can Google anything then, does that mean I don't really need to remember as much?
It's not that you don't need to remember as much, it's being more strategic with where you're putting all of that knowledge.
Okay.
Instead of trying to cram our brains with every single fact, we can actually free up space for deeper thinking and problem solving.
So it's less about memorizing facts and more about knowing how to access and then apply them.
Absolutely.
Okay, I can see how that's powerful in today's world where we're just bombarded with information constantly.
Right, and that brings us to another fascinating insight from Goleman. Our brains are actually hardwired to notice potential threats like angry faces, which makes them super salient, meaning that they just jump out at us.
So they grab our attention whether we want them to or not.
Exactly.
So like if I'm trying to work and then my phone vibrates with a notification, it's like my brain is instantly hijacked.
Totally. And think about this. Advertisers and media companies know this. They exploit it.
Oh no.
They use attention-grabbing techniques like flashing ads and clickbaity headlines to try and manipulate our behavior.
Oh my gosh, so my brain is basically wired to get distracted.
Kind of, yeah.
That's not fair.
That's why this challenge from Goleman is so important. Can we actually become aware of these attention grabs and avoid being manipulated by them?
So we can actually choose where our attention goes.
Yes, it's about developing that meta-awareness of what your attention patterns are,
Okay.
understanding what triggers those instinctive responses, and learning to pause before we react.
So my mind can feel less like that 20-tab browser window.
Right.
But how do we actually get more focused?
That's where David Allen's book, Getting Things Done, comes in.
Oh.
He talks about achieving a mind-like water state for peak productivity.
Okay.
Like, imagine water just reacting to any situation without stress, just flowing smoothly.
Mind like water. I love how that sounds, but my mind's more like a stormy ocean most of the time.
I think that's how most people feel.
Yeah.
You know, we're constantly being bombarded with tasks, emails, and distractions, and it just leaves us feeling so scattered and unfocused.
So how do we tame those stormy seas?
Allen offers this tool that he calls the weekly review.
Okay.
And it's about setting aside time every week to review your commitments, clear your mind, and just plan for the week ahead.
So like hitting the mental reset button.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's like taking inventory,
Mhm.
getting everything out of your head and onto paper or a system that you trust so that it creates space for you to breathe again.
I love it. A weekly brain declutter.
Yes.
I can totally get behind that. But sometimes even just a day can feel super overwhelming with all these tasks and random thoughts popping up.
Right, and that's where capturing comes in. Capturing.
It's another one of Allen's things, and it's about having a system in place so that you can get those things out of your head as soon as they come up.
Okay,
Whether that's through a notebook or a digital to-do list or even voice memos.
I do that one.
The point is that you're capturing those thoughts, ideas, or tasks.
So it's kind of like a mental inbox where you can collect those things before they even have a chance to distract you.
Exactly.
That's so smart.
And Allen says that the process should be as frictionless as possible.
You okay?
So the easier it is to get those thoughts out of your head, the less power they have to actually derail your focus.
So speaking of derailing focus, let's talk about multitasking.
Ooh, yes.
We all do it.
We do.
But James Clear in Atomic Habits and Cal Newport in Deep Work
Mm.
both actually say that multitasking is actually counterproductive.
They do, and Clear actually calls multitasking a myth because our brains just aren't designed to do multiple things at the same time. When we think we're multitasking, we're actually just rapidly switching our attention back and forth.
So it's more like task juggling.
Right, and it actually comes at a cost.
Aside from feeling frazzled all the time, what's the cost?
Well, research has shown that it can actually lead to decreased productivity, increased errors, and even heightened stress levels.
So it's like we're sacrificing quality for quantity.
Yeah, and in the end, we're not even really getting more done.
It's like trying to listen to 2 songs at the same time.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
It just ends up a jumbled mess.
Exactly, and Clear actually emphasizes that it's not just the big tasks. It applies to even seemingly small ones, like trying to have a conversation while you're scrolling on your phone.
Oh, that
You're not fully present in either
So
activity.
it's all about being intentional and choosing to just focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
But that takes willpower. And isn't willpower like a limited resource?
You're right, and James Clear talks about this as well in Atomic Habits.
Okay.
Willpower is like a muscle that gets tired with use.
Yeah.
But instead of just relying solely on willpower, he talks about this other concept called habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Yeah, have you ever heard of that?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's about basically linking a new habit that you want to build with a habit that you already do automatically.
So like if I wanted to start meditating every morning,
Yeah.
I could tack it onto my habit of brushing my teeth.
Yeah, like brush and then meditate.
Brush, then meditate.
And over time, as you just repeat this sequence, that new habit will become more automatic and it will require less conscious effort.
That's so smart. It's like sneaking in a workout without even realizing it.
Exactly.
I love that.
And speaking of building habits, Hal Elrod, who wrote The Miracle Morning, he's a huge advocate for making meditation part of your morning routine.
I've heard so much about the Miracle Morning. What makes his approach to meditation different?
Well, he actually gives a step-by-step guide to what he calls the Miracle Morning meditation.
Okay.
And it's designed to be very accessible, even for beginners. It combines simple practices like focusing on your breath, visualizing your goals, and cultivating gratitude.
So it's like a multivitamin for your mind,
Yes.
combining all of those into one powerful routine.
Right, and he really emphasizes that even just doing a few minutes of this type of meditation can have a significant impact on your focus and overall well-being.
Okay, I'm sold.
You should try it.
I'm adding that into my morning routine ASAP.
Good.
But back to those sneaky distractions for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about like the external ones, but what about those internal ones?
Ooh.
Like worries, to-do lists, and all the random thoughts
Right, all those things.
that just pop up.
Right, those internal distractions can be just as disruptive as the external ones.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the classic monkey mind that we hear so many productivity experts talking about.
totally.
And that's where things like mindfulness and meditation can actually really help us.
It's about learning to observe those thoughts without getting carried away,
Right, without getting swept away by them.
like watching clouds drift by.
Yeah.
Instead of getting caught up in the storm.
Exactly. And this goes back to Alan's idea of the weekly review,
Okay.
creating that mind like water state. It's not about emptying our minds completely, but about having a system to manage all of those thoughts
Okay.
and to prevent them from just totally hijacking our focus.
So we're not just fighting distractions, we're actually building a fortress
Yes.
to keep them out.
A mental fortress.
I love it.
I love that.
Okay, but even with all these amazing strategies, there are still days when focus just feels impossible.
There are.
Like, what about those days when motivation is low and procrastination is high?
Right. That's when we can leverage James Clear's motivation ritual.
You okay?
And remember, that's about pairing that challenging task with something that you actually really enjoy beforehand.
So like a pre-focus reward system.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So if you're dreading working on that big report, maybe you could listen to your favorite playlist for like 10 minutes before diving in.
So it's like hacking your own reward system to make focus more appealing.
Exactly.
I have that.
And remember, finding the right motivation ritual is very personal. What works for one person might not work for another. You have to find what really motivates you.
That's so interesting. It's making me realize that focus isn't really just about willpower or discipline. It's about understanding how our brains work.
Yes.
and using those insights to create a system that supports our goals.
You're so right. And that's actually a powerful takeaway from all of this.
Yeah.
It's about having this toolbox of strategies that work for you and just recognizing that focus is a skill that can be developed and refined over time.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about making progress.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
And this brings me to one final thing from James Clear that
Okay.
I wanted to touch on. Environment design.
Environment design. So like making sure that I have the right desk lamp.
Not exactly. It's about realizing how much influence our environment actually has on our behavior. And Clear says that if we want to make certain habits easier, we actually need to create an environment that supports those habits.
Yo.
Or conversely, if we want to break a bad habit, we need to make it harder to access.
So like setting yourself up for success by making it harder to do the things that distract us.
Right.
Like putting my phone in a completely different room while I'm working.
Exactly. If you're constantly being tempted by notifications, why even have it near you?
That's so true.
Or if you're prone to snacking while watching TV, don't keep unhealthy snacks in your house.
It's about making small adjustments that can have a huge impact.
Right, a ripple effect.
Wow. That's so simple, yet so powerful.
Yeah.
It's like we're not just fighting distractions, we're actually redesigning our world to make focus more effortless.
Precisely. And I think that's a perfect place to stop for part 2.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
We've learned so much already from
Yeah.
Goleman, Elrod, Allen, and Clear.
Yeah,
But where do we go from here? You know, like how do we actually take all of this amazing knowledge and put it into practice in our everyday lives?
well, you'll have to wait for part 3 to find out, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about.
Okay, I'm excited. All right, welcome back, Focus Ninjas. We've learned so much about focus already, from taming that monkey mind to habit stacking and even environment design. But before we wrap up our little focus adventure, there's one connection I'm really curious about, the link between focus and leadership.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one, and it's something that Goleman actually talks about quite a bit in Focus. He argues that attention is basically the foundation of leadership.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, to lead effectively, you have to be able to focus on the big picture, make those strategic decisions, and inspire others, to follow your vision. But it's not just about your focus, right?
Exactly. Great leaders don't just manage their own attention, but they also understand how to manage the attention of others. And Goleman actually calls this social intelligence, the ability to understand those social dynamics and direct a group's attention towards a common goal.
This makes me think about all those meetings where, like, everyone's distracted, checking their phones, zoning out. How can leaders create a more focused and productive environment?
Well, it starts with setting some clear expectations, and maybe some ground rules about participation suggest putting phones away or no side conversations. But beyond that, there's a powerful tool that Goleman highlights: storytelling.
Ooh, storytelling. I love a good story, but how does that apply to leadership and focus?
Well, think about it. Leaders who can tell compelling stories are way more effective at capturing and holding the attention of their audience.
Okay.
A good story just draws you in, makes you want to know what's going to happen next.
So it's like turning a boring meeting into a captivating narrative.
Exactly. And when people are engaged, they're more present, more attentive, and more receptive to your message.
It's like they're leaning in, waiting to hear what happens next.
Yeah,
Speaking of stories, Hal Elrod, in his book, The Miracle Morning, shares this really powerful story about how he overcame a near-fatal car accident and was able to rebuild his life. It's really a testament to mindset and having a clear purpose. And that kind of brings me to the role of motivation in all of this. We can have all these strategies, but without that inner drive, it's just really hard to stay focused.
Absolutely. And that's where, Clear's motivation ritual comes back, in that pairing a challenging task with something you actually enjoy beforehand.
So find those little things that make you excited to do the work.
Exactly, like treating yourself to a cup of coffee before you tackle that mountain of emails.
I like that one.
Yeah.
So we've really come full circle. We've explored these incredible focus hacks from all angles: the psychology, the neuroscience, and the actual practical strategies. This has been an awesome deep dive.
Yeah, it has. We've challenged all those assumptions about multitasking and willpower, and we learned how to harness the power of collective attention and even the art of environment design.
And what's even cooler is that all of these focus hacks can be applied to any area of life, not just work.
Exactly.
Whether you're a student or an artist, an entrepreneur, or just someone who wants to be more present, in everyday life, these strategies can really help.
The key takeaway is that focus is not about just forcing yourself. It's about figuring out how your brain works and building a system that works for you.
And finding those things that motivate you and keep
Okay.
you going.
Yeah, I love that.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, what are your final words of wisdom for everyone out there?
Focus isn't a destination, it's a journey.
I like that.
So be patient with yourself, try different things, and celebrate all those little wins. And remember, your attention is precious, so choose wisely where you focus it.
So well said. And to our amazing listeners, we want to hear from you guys. Which focus hack resonated with you the most? And what one small change are you going to make to level up your focus game?
Yeah, share your thoughts on social media or with a friend. And remember, we're all in this together. Keep diving deep.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found these tips helpful, don't stop here. Click on one of the videos popping up on your screen and keep building your productivity skills. There's always more to learn, and we're here to help you stay on track. Go ahead, dive in, and let's keep this momentum going.